My name is Antonia. I am 44 years old, and I have been married to my husband Eric for 21 years. We have 3 children together, and from the outside, our life might look like a success story. But inside, I carry a wound that has never fully healed. No matter how many years pass, I cannot forget what I went through when I first moved to a new country as a young bride. I was only 20 years old when everything changed. I was naive, soft-hearted, and completely unprepared for what was coming. I didn't know how to speak up for myself, and I didn't understand yet that staying silent could cost me so much. Before we moved, Eric and I lived with my parents, and life felt manageable. But then we had to leave sooner than planned, and suddenly I was saying goodbye to everything I had ever known. Leaving my mother was the hardest part. She was my whole world. She was the person I ran to when I was scared. The voice that made everything feel better. The moment I said goodbye to her, it felt like something inside me was being torn out by the roots. I cried for days. I cried on the plane. I cried in our new apartment. I cried holding my baby son in my arms at night when the house was quiet and I felt completely alone. And I was alone, truly alone. Eric was there in body, but he was never really present. He was afraid of his father and always did whatever he was told. He never stood between me and the pain his family caused me. He left me to deal with everything by myself, in a country where I didn't speak the language, didn't know the streets, didn't know a single person I could call a friend. His parents made things so much worse. They showed no warmth toward me, no patience, no kindness. They treated me as though I was an outsider who had no right to need anything. My mother-in-law was cold and critical. My father-in-law was worse. One night, when Eric came home drunk and frightening, I tried to stay in the house just to keep my son safe. My father-in-law told me I could leave, but I could not take my baby with me. I stood there in disbelief. He was willing to separate a mother from her child just to make a point. Of course I stayed. My son was everything to me. But that moment left a mark on my heart that I have never been able to erase. The stress of those early years made me physically ill. I was exhausted all the time. I visited doctors for months, struggling to understand why my body felt so heavy, so broken. The doctor told me I needed rest and less stress. But how was I supposed to rest? I had a baby, a husband who leaned on me for everything, a family-in-law who made me feel invisible, and a mother thousands of miles away that I was barely allowed to call. My mother-in-law once told me not to phone my mother more than once a month because the calls were too expensive. I obeyed. I called my mother, told her everything was fine, and hung up. I didn't want to cause trouble. I didn't want anyone to be upset with me. I swallowed my pain and said nothing. Looking back, that silence is one of my greatest regrets. Despite everything, I pushed forward. I studied the language. I learned how to navigate life in a new country. I found work, built a career, and eventually began earning enough to support not just myself, but my entire family. Eric struggled with the language and couldn't hold a steady job for a long time, so I carried all of it. The bills, the household, the children, the emotional weight of a marriage that rarely gave me anything back. I did it all. And somewhere in the middle of all that struggle, I found a quiet kind of strength I hadn't known I had. I bought us a house. I made our life stable. I did what I had promised myself I would do. But success doesn't erase grief. My mother passed away 10 years ago, and not a single day goes by that I don't think about her. I think about how little time I gave her, how I let other people's rules shrink our relationship down to one phone call a month. I never got back those lost years with her. I never got to call her just to hear her laugh, just to talk about nothing, just to feel close to her. That loss sits inside me like a stone, heavy and permanent. Now, Eric's parents are older. We see them on holidays. I greet them politely. I treat them with respect because that is who I am, not because of who they are, but love, warmth. I have nothing like that left for them. Whatever I might have once been able to offer was taken from me piece by piece over the years, until there was nothing left to give. My mother-in-law once looked at me and said that other women had their mothers nearby, but I didn't. She said it as though it were simply an observation. She never once acknowledged that she had been part of the reason that distance hurt so much. Sometimes I ask myself why I was so quiet back then, why I accepted so much without ever saying stop. Why I wore a smile on a face full of tears and told everyone I was fine. I was young, I was afraid. I didn't know yet that my feelings mattered, that I had every right to ask for more. I know that now, but knowing it now doesn't undo what happened then. I still cry when I think about those years. Not every day, but often enough. There is a version of me still standing in that house, holding her baby in the dark, wondering if anyone in the world cared whether she was okay. I want to reach back to that woman and tell her she was stronger than she knew, that she would survive all of it, that she would build something beautiful out of the ruins. I don't know if I will ever fully forgive the people who made those years so painful. Maybe forgiveness isn't the right word for what I'm looking for. Maybe what I need is simply peace. The kind of peace that doesn't require anyone to apologize or admit what they did. The kind that comes quietly in its own time. When you finally stop waiting for justice and start choosing yourself instead. I am still waiting for that peace. But for the first time in a long time, I believe it is possible. And that small belief, fragile as it is, feels like the first real breath I've taken in 20 years.